I oftentimes come across black men and women who are intelligent, who are dark skinned or dark brown, and are more pure, are really a part of this race. People who have a common ancestor with someone like myself. And I see them trying to engage with people who they shouldn't be engaging with. If you are a smart black man or a smart black woman and you have racial loyalty, what you need to understand is that we are a minority. We are not the majority. And we don't have to be concerning ourselves with the opinions and thoughts of the average black imbecile. There are Pan Africans, there are people who may identify, who may be called or fit in a class of Hotep, and then there are more intellectual people who are loyal to our race and our racial future. And I see people within that population trying to concern themselves with others, and then it starts to influence them. First, I have to point out the fact that this itself is a stupid thing to do, and you have to be a little bit more reasonable and logical than this. In order to achieve our goals, for instance, some people are confused and believe it has something to do with awakening the masses. I want to ask you, what exactly is the average villager in Africa or the average thug here in America that has a clue in the world about the racial future going to add exactly? Before anything in this world big happens, it has to be started. And it started by who? It started by a minority, no matter the situation. There are the communists started out with a minority. The communists in Russia started with a minority. The National Socialists, the big bad guys in the Germany, started out with a minority. The American colonial colonists that started the American nation were a minority. The British Empire itself was ran by a couple thousand aristocrats and nobility and the monarch. This idea that the black race is supposed to be any different, a large percentage of European history, it was 10%, the nobility that ran everything. And the rest of the population were simply peasantry. I don't believe that people should be suffering as peasants. I don't believe they should be in terrible conditions. But we have to acknowledge something. If we're thinking about our future here, who is it that's going to build anything for our black race? If the black race gains nukes in the future, if the black race is to be a unified force, if the black women are to finally get a feminine condition where they're relaxed creatures and they enjoy existence, if black men are to become technological figures of our race, who's going to do it? Is it the masses? If you go out and you ask the average black person what they think about politics, they may not even give you an answer. They may say, I don't think about politics, man. I don't really care about politics, man. I don't focus on that. And I just want to ask you, are we really supposed to be, knowing the sort of things in the future, knowing the dangers, knowing the potential successes, knowing things about like space exploration, knowing these long-term ideas, seeing these ideals, the wealth and the change in reality that would come from that minority. I want to ask you, do you really find it reasonable to be concerning yourself with the typical person on the streets? Does that really make sense to you? Some people think that they're important to it. Some people think that it's necessary. Well, I want to paint to you a vision of our racial union actually happening. It has to do with the people who actually matter caring. The people in a continent, for instance, now, or Black America, or Black South America, or Haiti, you name it, wherever the black race is, already don't like your government. And that's what the puppet governments, controlled by Caucasians and Jews and international money. These people don't enjoy their governments already. And so if they already don't enjoy their governments, what makes you think they're capable of rebelling against an aristocratic model, a monarchy model, that is only willing to use so much more to ensure no rebellion occurs? What makes you think that? And I think this comes from another thing of laziness. If you are a rather smart black man or woman and you're focused on our success, why, if you're waiting for the masses to help, it's like you think that they're going to come along and bring AK-47s and they're going to like fight some like cartoon revolution. It means you may be lazy. It means you haven't actually thought about how to succeed. Because if you see that one thing isn't going to work, sure, it would be easy if everyone was already smart and everyone was awakened and we could all just, because obviously if you have more smart people, more intelligent people, more people willing to work together, obviously it's going to be easier, right? Of course. But if you see that that's not the case, that's called being mad, doing the same thing again over and over again, not leading to solutions and still doing it regardless. That's called madness. But I think it's laziness. I think it's you don't want to, or a lack of intelligence, really, an unwillingness to find different solutions and be groundbreaking. Because I can tell you right now, trying to wake up the masses is actually the harder job than a technological one. To defend the black race, America invaded Iraq with a couple thousand soldiers, while they had well over 1 million, if I'm not mistaken, in their military, in their armed forces. A couple of drones are more significant than hundreds and perhaps thousands of men today. A single nuke is stronger than an entire city of people today. And so, thinking about these sort of things, the black race in the future can be defended by a number of EMPs. An aristocratic class can be defended by a number of EMPs. We don't need to wake up the masses, and you need to get that out of your head. You need to get out of your head the idea that people are going to come together. They're unimportant. They are significantly unimportant. They are useless to this cause. And if you care about them, let me ask you this. How do you reach them? Unless you're already in a position where you can do so. So whatever it is you want to do with them, if you want to do something with them, you have to get into power before you can do that anyway. And so the idea that waiting to do that now is just silly. It's very silly. It's not smart. The camera angle may look a little different. That's because I actually just left for perhaps a couple hours. Now, to get back to it, it is dumb to think that now is a time in our current condition to start concerning with awakening the masses. Now, it is very fascistic to start concerning yourself with the masses. Concerning yourself with the masses is trying to force pigs to fly. If they wanted to be with us, they would be with us. I understand people say, well, the masses are not educated enough. They're not aware enough about the topics and the problems our people face. This simply is not reasonable. It doesn't take much to know who your enemy is. And quite frankly, the other thing is that, well, they're concerned with immediate things. Well, they will continue to be concerned with immediate things. Why on earth I will never in my life consider hard working for this race, fighting until success, just for someone who was happily with the enemy. To ever come and take part in that, it's not reasonable, doesn't make any sense. We must have concern for ourselves. But now, to the moral question of it all. Is this just? Yes, it is just. You may ask, what about the people who may come up later? What about people who are proper and loyal later? Well, It is an aristocracy. It is largely based on merit. The reality is, anyone like that is with us. Anyone like that in the future will be a minority, and they will gladly be included in that sort of governing system. But we must be realistic. Ultimately, the masses are unimportant here. I just have to put this through. And if you wish to be a spearhead, you must be aware that there is much work for you. You cannot rely on the masses or anyone else to come in and play some large role for us. It is not going to happen. It is very important you understand that. I think this also affects the gender issues. Egalitarianism has forced us to believe we're all the exact same. And that has forced many people to start behaving towards children as though they are full adults and punishing them the same way and giving them the same retribution. This is not reasonable. A child is a child. He simply or she simply does not have the reasoning capabilities that a full adult does. And if we acknowledge that, we understand that we should treat them with far more care and far more forgiveness. However, if anyone was ever to try and put a child in charge of the world, in charge of a country, or in charge of a household, obviously we would retaliate against this. What we're witnessing and experiencing here is that people who are not reasonable have been placed in an equal setting with people who are far more reasonable. And so if you're a black man of intelligence, you're going to be surrounded by thugged, loving a black woman more than likely. Again, this does not justify race mixing, but you are going to be more than likely. And very similar for any black woman who is intelligent. You're likely going to be surrounded by unintelligent black men simply because that is the large percentage. And so we need to, in order to be at peace and not constantly be mad, and certainly for these dumber population to not affect the way we treat other smart people, we need to not include everyone in the same boat. Understand that some people are lesser and some people are greater. And if we can get to this point, things will be much more peaceful until the day of success, until the day of victory.